Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the preseason defense pod of the FPL Wire. As promised, on reaching 30k subs, we're all kitted out in ethnic Indian wear. This is for you guys in the audio, so you can see it on video. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co hosts, Late Riser and Prus. Lots of data to get into today, Prus.
I mean, a lot. LR has been sending us chart after chart since yesterday. Have had a time to digest it, but forget about the data. First, let's talk about 30,000 subs. You guys tell us. I mean, let's go back a little bit, talk about it for 2, 3 minutes. How has the journey been like since you started? What's been the big change? Or let me even start before that. What led you guys to start the podcast?
Ella?
Uh, it was actually one of our friends at DreamSetCo who approached us. Actually, that sort of led the brainchild into it. I, in fact, remember the time Zoff first texted me on Fantasy Football Scout as well, because he's one of the prominent managers with his 8-time top 10K history. And he texted me, he's like, wait, have you finished India number one twice or something of that sort? And then he was like, wait, bro, that's incredible. You probably must be having the best history in the last 4 or 5 years in the world, etc. That's how we started talking. Since then, Zoff and I have been a part of the Cons chat with Bakar, and both of us have been sort of interluding because I think we cover for each other's playstyles quite well in terms of him being the sort of planner and me being the sort of more maverick guy. So it was more of yin and yang. And it's something we've spoken about offhand 3, 4 times where it's like our personalities sort of complement each other. And that's when we got into things, yeah. And I messaged off and things. I think the moment we decided we want to do this, within a couple of weeks, we just rolled with it.
Nice. Nice. Zoff, you've gone from sort of content consumption to being like the tech guy, setting everything up, telling us how to do stuff. Like, what's the journey been like?
It's been incredible. It actually started a little bit earlier during COVID. During lockdown, what used to happen, everyone had a lot of free time, right? So we just started doing these long conference calls with Pranil and another friend of ours, AK, Anurag. So we just we'd be discussing football for so long. We just it's just so fun talking football with friends for just an hour, hour and a half. So why not just try it? And once the opportunity presented, we obviously have to thank Dreamset Go because they really put it all together. They brought us the whole thing. They brought this whole thing to a much bigger stage. So nothing would have been possible without them.
Shout out to our boy Bakar as well. He was with us for the beginning of the journey, and it was great fun banter with him. And you have very, very ably sort of replaced him as well. Pras, how's the experience been for you?
The experience from the time when I was a listener to the time when I'm actually podding. So as a listener, as soon as you guys started, I mean, the first thing, and I also echo between you, Zoff, Bakar, I mean, there was a really good mix of opinions and, it was great. And I don't think I missed a single episode in the 2 years or 2 and a bit years that you guys were doing the content. So for me, always it resonated with the way you guys produce content. Always try to cover everything, not just sort of giving an opinion because this guy's hairstyle looks good. Nothing wrong with that. But this has always been a podcast with what is the evidence? Why do you think certain things? And it always appealed to me. And, when there was an opportunity to join, I didn't hesitate for a second because it was basically like now I can be part of the thing which I was listening to every single time, every single week. So I find it incredible to be talking to you guys. It's an honor that I do it on a weekly basis because you're fantastic managers. I learn a lot when I speak to you guys. And hopefully, we have the same chemistry and we give the viewers the same thing that I really liked about the pod from the beginning, which is a complete picture, an unbiased picture. Even if we are particularly looking at a certain player like a Haaland, we would still be very unbiased to the extent where humanly possible about a Salah-like structure as well. So I think that's what we try to do. And I really, really love it.
And you're adding much needed sex factor value on this podcast as well. We must not forget that. Pras, a question all the ladies in the chat have for you. What's underneath the kurta? Are you wearing shorts or jeans or nothing?
We forgot this part of the pod, which basically sometimes edges into very edgy content. So we had to bring in one of those. I am wearing work from home kurta, basically my home shorts with a kurta, which is basically the go-to, right?
Yeah, that is. I'm wearing jeans just because it's probably going to be a long pod because this is the marquee defense pod. So if at all there needs to be sort of a pee break, I didn't want to take a chance with
Yeah, me
shorts because
too.
the
I put wearing
You
shorts.
can duck.
Nobody wants
You
to
can
see
duck
that.
and walk out.
Nobody wants to see that. I made sure I wear pajamas.
Yeah, man. But how are you guys feeling about FPL, man? Settled in? I'm feeling very settled in with
Yeah,
my
it's
team.
getting closer
I'm
now. The preseason friendlies, I think we're getting a lot more usable information as you get closer and closer to the date.
Yeah, man. One thing though, I get the sense like it's the season's like 2 weeks away, and I feel like we just don't have enough information at the moment. Like I feel like one of the things that's a macro point that's in my head is there's just very little that we know for sure. And I feel like maybe a good strategy going into the season, we'll talk about that in the defense board, is stick to the things that you know for sure.
I agree with you. I agree with. But I shared with you guys the amount of preseason matches that are going to happen. People are going to come back. I think that last 10 days is going to be full of information. And people who are engaged up to now, I would also say, keep some stamina. Because that last week leading up to the deadline, there's going to be a lot of things happening thick and fast. I think Community Shield is that week. After Community Shield, after Man United beat Man City for the second time this summer, then really the information will start to come in and you will then have to make commitments. Right now, we're all flirting with certain picks like I like Saka, I like Son, I like Haaland, I like, ultimately we'll have to commit, and commitment isn't easy.
Right. I also think since this is the 30K pod celebration, it would be nice if you guys hit the like and subscribe button as well. We want to grow a lot faster. This is our 12th day since the game is launched, and or 13th day, and this is our ninth upload on this channel. We're aiming to keep uploads very frequent on this channel. As you guys already know, we'll be doing team selection videos every week as well. So, hit the like and subscribe button because it really helps us. We'd appreciate it. And this is something I've seen other podcasters and YouTubers do. We need to keep a target of 1,000 likes for this particular video because it's the marquee defense video. So we'd appreciate it if you get us there.
Yeah. 40% of the people who watch our pod haven't subscribed. So it's a big audience we lose out every week. Hit that subscribe button, doesn't cost a thing.
Cheers.
Speaking
Let's
of,
get into the swing of things.
yes,
Before just one last word
Sure.
from me, I also want to shout out some of the guys who've been with us throughout. I mean, I'm not going to take names because there's so many, but the people who've supported us as Patreons, as members, who are on Discord, basically, they're the ones who are keeping this going in terms of the community. And there's a nice little wonderful Discord community, and even outside, even in this YouTube chat, even on X. And just wanted to thank everybody because it's the time, we're trying to get a little bit reflective, but it is, we do really appreciate every single like, every single subscribe, every single monthly contribution that you make to support us.
Very well said, Pras. Let's start now with a sponsor plug for a sponsor who's also been with us since day one.
Yeah, man, Fantasy Football Scout, I just feel like it's a natural fit for us because all three of us have been Scout users for a decade. They're all the stats and numbers and charts that you're going to see on this podcast. And I tell you, Zoff, send us the compiled images. There's about 25 images on this podcast. So be strapped in. There's a lot of data on this podcast, including some very sexy stats bomb shot maps as well, that we're going to be using later. So I mean, it's all on there. It's all available at a 40% discount at the moment, which I think is a snip of a price. So you do need to become a member. And if you become a member, help us out by clicking on the link in the description below because it's a link that helps us as well since we're affiliates.
And Nord is back. So as you guys know, the Nord VPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your home country, you can in fact access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top, plus up to 20 GB daily data vouchers. This includes all the 2-year plan options. Show recommendations, guys. I'm starved of stuff to watch right now. Hoping you can give me something.
I am starved of stuff to watch too. I mean, I'm reverting and resorting to documentaries, and I actually ended up seeing the Federer documentary, The 12 Last Days, on Amazon, which I thought was brilliant. I might have gotten a little misty-eyed at the end of it because they all get emotional, man. Whether it's Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, all of them get misty-eyed at the end of it. So I think that's a nice, for this rainy weather, especially in my city at the moment, nice, feels like a nice, cozy, warm hug of sport. that particular documentary.
Are you a Nadal boy, Federer boy, or Djokovic boy?
I'm a Djokovic boy.
Djokovic.
Oh, that's a
I
rare
thought
one.
it much. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't hate any of them, man.
Yeah,
I
you
like
can't
all of
really.
them. Like yeah, there is no like sort of animosity for any of them, man. You have only love. It's great to see that where all three of them, and it's even they speak about Nadal and Federer's friendship, being two at the top of the game. The friendship that they have is also quite nice, and they dive
Yeah,
into that in that podcast as well.
pretty rare to see. Ross, any recommendations?
Dude, I've had no time, man. Like the last time we discussed this after the Euros, it's been like, catching up with stuff and, with the podcast, with work. I'm still on The Bear. I've just started season 3. So, I have to then go to The Boys, which is also now, I think there's 5 or 6 episodes are out. So I'm still on The Bear, and I'm not going to recommend The Bear. Everybody knows it's an amazing show.
Show I've been enjoying was Presumed Innocent that just concluded. If you guys haven't caught that, I think that's probably the best show around right now. It's on Apple TV. Good cast, good story. Highly recommend.
Nice.
So
And if
getting
you're getting onto the show, make sure you're not searching anything because you need to save yourself from the spoilers.
good shout that. So getting back
Yeah.
to Nod, Nod also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. You can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. So, right, guys, where should we start first? Let's just have a look at some team numbers first, or do you want to
Yeah,
jump
that
straight
sounds
into
like
goalkeepers?
team numbers is a good idea just to understand where the
Right.
defenses are,
I'd
etc.,
agree
and
with
what our
that.
perception of it.
Cool. Let's start first up. Now we have here full season XGC numbers. Arsenal, as we'd expect, right on top. We pretty much know Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. But what's interesting here is 4th, 5th, 6th. Palace, Forest, and Everton. Thoughts, guys?
It's interesting, right? And the thing that stands out here is how far away Arsenal are when it comes to
I was going to say
being the
same.
best defense in the country. Like there is a school of thought of me that's thinking, I've been flirting with Trent in my draft. Why don't I just like get Saliba in there and clock the 2 clean sheets in the first 3 games? It's always nice to sort of start the season early. So that's one of our thinkings out there. I do expect City's numbers to be the same, if not better. Like those two feel like a sure shot thing. Liverpool is a question mark, right? We just don't know how Liverpool are going to start. It is worth mentioning though that they're more possession heavy, and they're probably going to be more possession heavy, pass heavy, and little less chaotic under Slot than they were under Klopp. So that's something worth monitoring. Your thoughts, Pras?
So I think, look, I think you mentioned, I think the delta of how good Arsenal are of is needs to be emphasized. So you already did that. I think Liverpool, sometimes we forget that they're a top 3. I would still say they're top 3. I mean, I know Nottingham Forest here are above them, but they're still a top 3 defense. So when you can get an attacking output like a Trent for 1 million more for a slightly worse defense, then it's a real discussion. So I think that makes, for me, when I look at it, I say actually, oh, top 3 defense and an attacker, almost an attacker like Trent is actually very good. Then you come to Man City. We know what Man City is. And Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest are very, very interesting. A lot of people were talking about Nottingham Forest as being that team which has good data but still concede. Whether that is bad luck or that is just, quality, it remains to be seen. I think they've tried to address some of the good sort of their conceding chances of set plays. And by the way, when you concede of a set play, those are typically low XG conceded chances. And if you concede, then it looks bad, even though your data is fine. So this is one thing that they're trying to address with their new keeper, and we'll get into that. But Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Brighton, all good teams that we think if the numbers hold. Now, obviously, Brighton have a new manager, so TBC, are interesting. And lastly, on Crystal Palace, I think to add is you remember from, I think, game week 30 onwards, even maybe before, their fixtures were insanely good. Like we were talking about just perma play, a lot of Palace assets, and we done that, even the free hit was not needed in 34 because they just kept doing well. Whether that was Glasner, whether that was good fixtures, something to take note because these are second half fixtures. Not everybody has the same fixture run, and defensively, fixtures matter even more than attack. Like an attacker can score against harder team, but a defender is more likely, much more likely to keep a clean sheet if you have good fixtures.
I have the numbers
Yeah.
up here now from the second half of the season, Press, and this is not 30, this is from 20 to 38. And Palace again feature quite well in terms of XGC, they're only 2 behind Liverpool, 23 versus 25, and Forest are up in third.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Second half trends, anything to take away? Bournemouth improved a lot, as you can see as well. Spurs went downwards.
I think there's tiering. There's tiering that we need to start to think about, because ultimately we're not picking a player for the whole season. We're thinking of tiers. So we're thinking of tier one, Arsenal, Man City. I don't think there's anybody else that makes that. And within that, we need to remember that Arsenal were even better than Man City by some distance last year. Let's see this year. Tier two, I would still say it's still Liverpool. Who else would you say is tier two? Nobody else.
Nobody else.
Then you have
Nobody
tier
else.
three, which is tier three is good with potential. And I would put Nottingham Forest there, Crystal Palace, Brighton, maybe Bournemouth, Everton. Then the rest.
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa could be in there.
Yeah, just because of who they've signed, etc. Like what we need to do sort of when we're looking at these numbers is also sort of contextualize. Are things going to change this season? And if so, why? You know, there are like Newcastle, for example, right? And United to an extent. Flurry of injuries. Are they going to be looking different defensively? Nick Pope, how much of a difference does he make? Botman being fit in a month or two, how much of a difference that make? With United, are Martinez and Shaw going to be fit? How much of a difference is that going to be making? Not much unless Casemiro is shifted in the defensive position. So all of these are also factors which we'll tend to contextualize. Chelsea numbers, do you take any of that into consideration at all? Because new manager, new setup, so we don't know what's going to happen. So like we need to sort of disregard some of these numbers. Liverpool is just a question mark. It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse. We just don't know at the moment.
Yeah,
that's where
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Also now, LR, I'm glad you asked me to pull this table. XG conceded from set pieces. Who's at the bottom, LR? I can't really see very clearly.
I can't see either, but I'm guessing by I'm guessing by you asking me, it's probably United.
Yes, it is. United had the most XG conceded from set pieces, 16.8. Spurs are also all the way down at the bottom. They are, I think, second or third from bottom.
We've hired a set piece guy. We've hired the Southampton set piece guy, right?
Yeah, we have.
It's an again, to LR's point, there are teams are also seeing this. Like the managers are also seeing this. So I think to an extent, whether it's injuries or whatever, it's very alarming, both for Spurs and Man United to be below Luton, for example. But it is something that they will address. And I guess for FPL reference, it's also harder to predict set play goals, right? Like you want them, and unless you're planning to hold a certain player for 8 weeks, like we talk about Dawson's or Gabriel's or players who are or Van Dijk's, that's on the other end. So it's hard to predict set play goals. So yes, it is part of something that we need to think about, but it's also a moving situation. So this feeds into the data that we looked at, which is the first table.
Correct. It's also influenced by the number of shots a team faces. Naturally, teams that face fewer shots will concede less set pieces. It's a natural occurrence of that. They'll face less free kicks and corners, right? So naturally, you see the teams in the bottom half who concede more shots. And you guys, Manchester United, were like that. In the second half of the season, conceded the most shots. So it will result in more corners. So that sort of also lends itself to it.
Yeah. If you can move back to the second half of the season XGC tables off that you pulled. I just have a couple of questions to ask you. Looking at this table, like I want you two guys to maybe point out one or two teams that might look like they might be in a different sort of table. So out of the 10 teams in the bottom of the table, which couple are you expecting to make the jump to a top half defensive team, and why is the case? Like, are we expecting improvement from any of these defenses? Anyone you guys want to highlight?
Let's look at the bottom half. I think that's interesting. Some teams over there. I think Newcastle and Villa would be the two I'd probably pick out. I don't necessarily expect Wolves or even Chelsea, because Chelsea, what we've seen at pre-season, things have looked quite torrid. I think those are the two teams I'd primarily look at.
Villa is very interesting because I think Onana is like a big addition to that midfield. And what happened last season is they just had Doug Luiz playing in defensive mid. I think how far is Kamara away from fitness?
I'm not
sure.
He
won't be ready.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be ready. But either way, Onana is a perfectly like-for-like replacement there.
Yeah, correct. But eventually what will happen is they will have McGinn, Onana and Kamara. So that's just a much solid three in the middle of the park. That hopefully improves their defensive performance.
Correct, because I think the Kamara point is well made, because a lot of this data, almost all of it, I think, is without Kamara. They're much better. Like you
Exactly.
see if you look at it over the longer period, they go further up the table for the
Yeah.
full season.
And
So
Doug
that
Lewis
reflects.
isn't a DM. He was just forced to play as a DM. He's more sort of like an 8 that's a little bit defensive than your standard attacking 8.
Correct. Move on
Plus,
to
any teams jump out to you?
I would say Newcastle and Villa as well.
Yeah.
You could make a case that West Ham jump up a few places because Lopetegui is a good manager, good
Yeah.
possession-based manager that shouldn't concede as many chances. So potentially they would be in there. But then you're getting into a territory where then who is bad? Like we don't know who bad is. So at the moment, this is what we think, which is what that good teams that in the bottom half should become better teams, but we don't know.
Yeah. One thing though, like about Everton, right? All of us are jumping on Mikolenko. Like, we need to weigh in how much of an impact Onana leaving might have. It's still Sean Dyche in there. So, that's a factor. And if Branthwaite happens to leave that club, then I think their defensive sort of numbers and stability, that perception goes down by a little percentage in my weightage. Like that's the team that jumps out to me. I'm expecting Palace to continue that sort of defensive form. Forest is fully dependent on the ability of the goalkeepers, as we'll highlight in the data coming in the future images.
Let's go to the goalkeeper section then. Now we have the data for goalkeepers XG prevented for the full season. Jose Sa was significantly ahead of the rest with 8.5. Muric in second, who's now at Ipswich, and Martinez. Onana did all right, but Pickford I expected to be somewhat higher. He's just in fifth at 2.5. But who jumps out from here? Pras?
I think they have, so again, pricing has been good. They've obviously looked at this and said, look, Martinez, Onana, Pickford, Pope, Edison, these are guys that are good keepers from teams that are reasonable defense or could become reasonable defenses. So they're not 4.5. So I think that's where the challenge will be. I think there was this thing of Sean Dyche defense. I think LR, you quoted that or something where a Sean Dyche keeper has reached 150 points consistently over the
That
last
was
5,
amazing.
6 years. Okay, so I saw that somewhere. And it just basically shows that it's the perfect balance of saves, clean sheets, and in the old world bonus. Obviously, bonus will be impacted a little bit, but I think Pickford, it's the combination, as opposed to somebody like an Onana who was completely relying only on saves, the odd clean sheet, if he got one, and if he did, then, he was basically in the bonus. That won't happen this year. So we need to think about it almost in the sense of save points versus XG prevented. That's always been the interplay, right? If you're preventing more XG, you're getting more save points, but then you're also a weaker defense that you're letting through shots. A Daesh team is that perfect mix where you're getting shots, but they're outside the box, and so that's what makes a great keeper for FPL.
A couple of other things that sort of jump out to me. We normally see Allison in such a table. He's not there. He's normally one of the better keepers that tends to do well for XG prevented. And I think he's better than the data that suggests here. So maybe Liverpool improve because Allison himself will do much better. Personally, I don't think he's sort of regressed as a goalkeeper anyway. And see the kind of work that Nick Pope did in 16 games. Like he's just better, much better than Dubravka. Dubravka had a clear weakness by he wasn't able to dive in time for the low shots in the corner. Pope is just much better, so he should take that defense up. These are the two things that sort of jump out to me.
Also, Edison has XG prevented positively. He has a bad rep, but it's not that he's that bad. It is positive, right? Or is that
Yes,
minus?
it is. It's 0.7
Okay,
It's
good,
positive.
good,
It's positive.
good. So just that was a side thing.
Let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. And again, why Forest have suffered. Two of their goalkeepers make the top 10 for XGP worst. Sells 9.5. That's horrid. Look at Petrovic also, which highlights Chelsea's goalkeeper situation. I don't think he's going to be sticking around any further. Johnston surprised me because I think that would indicate that Henderson should be a clear number one over there. Again, Flecken is not somebody I expected to see there. I thought he was pretty good in some of his performances, but the numbers are there.
He improved. He had a shit first half of the season and he improved in the second half of the season. Pretty much that was the trajectory for Flecken.
Right. What jumps out here, Ella?
Going for a Nottingham Forest 4.5 defender depends on what you make and who their first choice keeper is going to be going into the season. They've got good defensive numbers, underlying numbers, but like if Sales is there, it's an issue, right? Like it genuinely is an issue. I also think they must be bottom five, bottom six for XG conceded from set pieces, also, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
the goalkeeper they bought is like a 6'5" dude, but
Six
they
foot
buy a
eight.
keeper
Six
every year.
eight.
6'8".
6'8".
So they're terrible at identifying keepers. It's about whether we want to take a chance on the Nottingham Forest defense based on the keeper. But I think at least all three of us are looking at getting goalkeepers and defenders in the play with a view to wildcard within the first 6, 7, 8 weeks, no matter what. So it's fine. I think it's a case where you just play the fixtures irrespective and don't pay too much attention to this. I think by the time Game Week 5, 6 comes around, we'll know who the good keepers are, etc. as well. So that's where I am in this situation.
Russ, why don't you
I,
tell our listeners why we traditionally favor 4.5 goalkeepers over more expensive ones?
I mean, it's basically the maths of the delta that you get, right? I mean, if you're comparing a expensive goalkeeper, the simplest way to say it is if you look at the past 3 or 4 seasons, if you look at the top 10 goalkeepers, it's never the 5.5, never the 6.5s. It's actually a mix. There's a couple of 4.5s in there. So it is easier to catch up to a more established keeper who has maybe a higher clean sheet potential, because a keeper is a specialist position. You get more save points. Edison rarely gets any save points, and Raya is going to be pretty much the same. Where because Arsenal and Man City concede a lot fewer shots, you won't be racking up some of these save points. And in the earlier world, like I said, some bonuses as well. So what usually happens is Edison will be 6-2-2, 6-2-2, 6-6-2-2. The other keeper will be 2-1-10, 1-1-7. And basically that way, it's not that much of a difference. So what you will then say is maybe at the end of the season, Edison, or maybe at the end of your wildcard window, Edison will outscore by 5 points or 6 points. I'd rather use that 1 million and put that towards, upgrading a Gordon to an Odegaard if you thought that could be saved, or maybe a better example, a 5.5 to a 6.5 midfielder. So there are areas where you can use that million and it can make a lot more value, which is different from defenders, because a cheap defender doesn't have those save points. So that's a different match that we will get into. But I think cheap keepers traditionally has been easy because it's the lowest scoring spot in the team. You don't need to sort of go adventurous, and you won't make 20 points in 5 weeks going for a premium keep.
And the bonus changes, which we will discuss more in detail, I think adds further credence to this strategy.
I agree.
Further credence I want to discuss, because the cheaper keepers have lost bonus, right? So now, if you look at last season, Areola has lost 6 points, Raya has not. So the gap has widened theoretically. If Areola has a worse season,
That's interesting.
and
I didn't
Raya
think
has
about that, because now the bread and butter clean sheets matter more than your high ceiling scores.
Exactly. So you could make an argument that so wildcard one, game week 1, you don't need to pick a premium keeper because it's okay. It's for the short term. But I think on wildcard 1, people might actually lean towards Raya as their keeper for the longer term. 5.5 feels okay, but then you have to also contextualize it with the scenario that pricing is very, very tough. I mean, look, Calafiori has come in at 6 million, where everybody was thinking, oh, maybe he'll come at 5 and we'll get a gem. FPL has been stingy this year. They're not giving us any freebies, which is good for the game. So that 1 million may be important. So as things stand, maybe we still go for a 4.5 keeper. But I do see the gap actually slightly widening because of the bonus potential going for the cheaper keepers.
So one thing I always play into consideration when I'm picking like the goalkeepers versus the defenders is, let's say last year, Raya wasn't necessarily an option. Was he 5 million? What was his price to start with?
5,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The case was that Arsenal defenders were available at 5 million.
Exactly.
So why should I pick the keeper? And they have set piece threat. This year, there is a little more reasoning behind it, because if you want to buy a piece of nailed on Arsenal defense, you're paying 0.5 million more. So that's the only thing. And that's one of the thinkings why when I'm looking at the 5 million keepers, every decent 5 million keeper has a 4.5 million entry from defense into them, which is why I'm not considering. So that's also one of the factors you need to consider. Is there a cheaper price to enter in defense, etc. as well?
Yeah, entry points matter a lot.
Yeah.
Ella, why don't you talk us through this image here from StatsBomb that talks about XG per shot conceded? Because traditionally, we want keepers who face a ton of low XG shots. So they're more likely to make saves and not concede.
Yeah. Shout out to Tom Freeman, firstly, because he pulled these data from StatsBomb. StatsBomb data is going to be available on the Scout website within a week. But I wanted some data because I think this is the most important piece of data. Not most important, it's a considerably important piece of data that you need to pay attention to. Now, what kind of keepers do you like? You like the kind of keepers that face a medium to high volume of shots, but the XG of the shot they face is relatively low. Why is that important? Because that leads to more savable shots, that leads to more save points. It's pretty much that, which is why Everton being number 2 out here is just huge because they have the second lowest XG per shot conceded. So they do concede a fairly high volume of shots, but the XG of that shot is low. Now you think about that, you translate this to information on the pitch. Normally, we are thinking about a deep low block when it comes to a Sean Dash team, which limits to their opposition from pops at the goal from outside the box, which are traditionally low XG shots. So this sort of secret sauce, where a mid to high volume of shots but low XG shots, sort of appeal to us when we're looking at our keepers. And it's in congruence with the keepers we were looking at. Look at Arsenal. Obviously, they concede low number of shots and the XG per shots considered also low. You wanted to concede a ton of volume of shots, but the XG isn't as high. We're terrible defense. We're bottom 5 defense, but Onana got a decent amount of save points because of this.
Yep.
Now, Everton is at number 2 here, and West Ham is at number 5 here. Who were the two keepers that we were looking at last year that did well? Areola and Pickford. Why? Because their teams tend to concede a high volume of shots but low XG shots, which translate into some clean sheets. And if not clean sheets, you're getting save points. So that's the thing that you want to weigh out here. And I mean, a couple of interesting things that leaped out to me. Aston Villa. I mean, they conceded a lot of big chances. I mean, the XG value per shot conceded was quite high. Spurs, these are the sort of more open teams when you're envisioning them also. And even City out there. So, there was a run at the start of the season where City lost a multiple ton of games 1-0. Is even despite them having a very low XG conceded data. That's because whenever they did concede a shot, it was a sort of like a big chance. It was a clear-cut shot that they conceded. So that's the data that you need to keep in mind. Numbers that appeal to me from this chart, Forest. Forest do have a low XG per shot conceded. So if I was to go for a Forest keeper, which is in my thinking at the moment, it's a decent bet because again, Nuno we know is defensively pretty decent. So if the keeper just does decently and doesn't perform as poorly as Sels did, or as other Forest keepers have done, there's value there. Similarly to Brentford and Newcastle United. That's the point I'm trying to make out of this chart.
Anything to
It's a
add,
great
Russ?
chart. No, it's a great chart. I mean, you can spend time just looking at this and trying to make a narrative of how teams play and how they can improve. Clearly, Onana coming in will mean for Aston Villa that they will concede fewer big chances, and therefore the XG per shot should come down. That will then impact their XG conceded. So you can see basically the building blocks towards what managers will be working towards. But for our FPL implications, you're absolutely right, Alar. Last season we looked at West Ham, Everton, Chelsea for this reason. Sean Dash teams are always top 3. That's the beauty of his setup. Now, we don't want to overplay Pickford because I think none of us will go there for 5 million early season when pricing is so tight. But it just shows that there is merit in looking into these numbers because clearly you can see coming. Like if somebody showed you right now 2024-25 XG per shot conceded, you would immediately say, okay, this is my 4.5 keeper perma play for the rest of the season because that's how important these things are. So the easy job is to give you the data and present it and tell you what happened last season. The harder one is to say who will beat the top 5 next year.
Yeah. And I bet West Ham and Everton will be there because again, Lopetegui is known for a decent mid to deep block as well. So it's basically stylistically translating that into data and it just sort of correlates here.
I want to go back to Villa a little bit now. The reason they conceded a lot of these chances was because they played a very aggressive line. Do you think Onana signing will affect that? I think it will affect the quantity rather than the quality of chances because that's how Emery plays. He's going to ask the team to push high up, and having Onana there won't necessarily change that, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like that's the thing that makes me wary about Villa, but their fixtures top 5, 6 are just great. So I'm going to take a punt anyway on the Villa defense, or I'm likely to take a punt anyway. That's where my thoughts are. I think early season we don't have much to go for in terms of play style, except the fixtures and a decent precedence of defensive ability.
Let's talk about Leno for a second. Again, one of last season's top keepers, and Fulham defense is something I'm looking at now. Slightly digressing, I'm quite put off by this. I don't like the fact that they are like 4th bottom for XG per shot conceded. That means Leno really did perform very well last season.
With Palhinha being at the heart of that midfield. Now, if you just think about Fulham playing in the sheer amount of interceptions, tackles, last-ditch tackles, winning the ball ability that Palhinha had, like I do have my doubts in terms of who's going to replace that in that Fulham team. We just don't know yet at the moment. So, I mean, The one pick I do like from the Fulham defense, we talk about latest Robinson because he's got decent attacking ability. But outside of that,
And they're
we
signing
don't know.
Sessegnon, so he has competition
Yeah.
for the left back spot now too.
Yeah, they have signed. He has even been priced.
Oh, right. So he'll be 4.5.
Yeah. Correct.
Where should we go next, guys? Should we start with the Fraser charts or discuss first the attacking return numbers for some of the defenders?
No. Let's talk about who we are looking at for goalkeepers.
Goalkeepers first?
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
yeah. Like now we looked at these charts. Now, what are your thoughts? Where are you at with terms of goalkeepers? Like, let's go top to bottom.
I want the Forest
Are any
keeper,
of the
man. That's what's leaping
are
out to me. I just hope we are going to get some idea that Miguel is nailed.
what are your
Plus?
thoughts, Pras?
I mean, I think that will be the go-to for most people. They have got sort of 5 green fixtures in the first 6. And I think it would be an easy one. Fixtures are there. Again, we'll have to look at fixtures when we look at 4.5 keepers, because like we all said, I mean, your clean sheet odds are the highest. So trying to find that right balance between clean sheet odds versus save points versus XG per shot. So I think Crystal Palace fit that bill. Nottingham Forest fit that bill. None of us want to go for a Southampton keeper, even though their fixtures are okay after. So that's where we are. And if you wanted to go 5 million, this suggests that Martinez could be an interesting option.
If
Or
I'm
Pope?
going family, I'm going Pickford, I reckon. Or Pope, actually. Like, why just go with the known quantity, right? Not much is going to change at Everton. Unless they sell Branthwaite. Like, that's the main thing because we know about the Keane effect. So that's the thing. Why not just go with Pickford? Because it's a short thing. If you don't need the money for the first 5 weeks, it's a short-term bet, so it's not having that money to spend. So if I was going 5 million, I'd still go Pickford over the other two, I reckon.
I'd agree with that.
Let's talk about Pope and Newcastle, guys. I do want to address that. Pope's there, but like, I feel like we might be getting swayed by the first fixture, which is Southampton at home. After that, isn't that easy? The only home game they have is Spurs at home. And then
it's
there's
City.
Bournemouth away, Wolves away, Fulham away. So 3 away games in the first 5. Like, I feel like the only locked in decent good chance of CS is game week 1. I don't know how many cleans they're going to keep between game week 2 to 5. They're not great clean sheet fixtures.
They're not.
I agree. I mean, the good fixtures are away. That's the problem after game.
Yeah.
What, 5, 5.5?
Yes.
Sorry, Pras, we dropped you for a second.
Oh, sorry. I was saying Pope is like 5 million. Definitely
Yeah.
not worth going initially. I mean, I know we've changed our tune. I'm always very hesitant to change our tune between how good defenses are, and Newcastle is that one example where, other than Joe Linton, you cannot explain, or the injuries, you cannot explain why that defense dropped from a top 3 defense. Last year we were talking about it as a defense better than Liverpool. Now we're talking about it as a bottom 10 defense. But things change, man. I mean, what can we do? The data is telling us, the eye test is telling us the same thing. So I'd be careful, even though they have Joe Linton and Pope coming back.
Do you subscribe to, if you have money, get Raya Thought at 5.5?
Not with the early fixtures. Because the first 5, I see possibly 2 clean sheets, maybe 3 at a push.
Yeah, because the 3 away games are really tough. Really
Exactly.
tough. Even though Arsenal can keep a clean sheet in any game, the first 3 are really tough. So if we're going above 4.5, we're thinking Pickford is the choice?
Yes.
I'm still on Martinez, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's Martinez or Pickford. That's fair. That's fair. And 4.5 million. I mean, you guys are leaning towards the Forest keeper. I'm leaning towards the Palace keeper. I'm just a believer in...
Neither of whom we know 100% who will start at the time of the spot.
And then there is Flecken. But the thing is, away games are again Liverpool, City and Spurs away. So that's the problem. Sometimes this isn't the worst thing, but I wouldn't have minded if one of these games was home. Then I would have gone for it because there's a potential to accumulate save points also, right? Like, that's why we also go for one keeper, because the chance to fluke a 10-point haul happens in one of these tougher games. It doesn't necessarily happen in the easier games. So yeah.
Even Neto is 5 million now, but I think the fixtures are quite difficult for Bournemouth to start with. He was quite popular towards the end of last season. Brighton, now I think we have a clear starting keeper. Verbruggen is injured, but from what I hear about the new manager, he's quite attacking. And again, the clean sheet fixtures are really good around 4 and 5. The first 3 look a bit iffy.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. I think most of us end up going... I mean, Areola would have been an easy pick, but the fixtures at the start aren't great.
What I do like about Areola is at least you can get his backup, Fabianski 4.0. I do like to have the backup in the same team in case the guy gets sent off, injured. It saves you a transfer over there. So that's the only combination I think that allows that.
I mean,
They don't
Ariola
have
could
the
be going to Saudi, by the way. He's been linked. I mean, I think as a general hygiene, put Fabianski as a second keeper
Good
anyway.
shot.
He could go in the transfer window, and then you end up with the 4.0 guy who you could even potentially play. Uh, but I think it's between him or Edison who leaves. But there has been some rumors.
Where next, guys?
defense, premium defense. No, let's talk about bonus points, I think. I reckon.
Let's go
General
there.
impact of.
Now, Elad's credit to above average FPL, whose raw numbers we worked it over here. LR, why don't you talk us through this?
Right. So what do we have first? We have the
gainers.
bonus for
Guys, let's actually do the guys who lost first, and I think it'd be better we come back to that because technically nobody has really gained. People have lost. Some have lost less than others.
So I mean, what jumps out to here, and this is more a macro point than looking at these players as picks, and we've sorted this data in terms of people who've lost the most amount of bonus going down. And what are the names at the top of the table here? Porro, Martinez, Pickford, Neto, Romero, Vicario, Trent's lost 5 bonuses. Walker's lost bonuses. Dunk, Robinson. All of these guys have lost 5, 7, 9. Porro's lost a huge chunk of his bonuses, which talks about him as an option because what's going to happen is earlier Porro used to get a bonus point or 2, even in games where Spurs conceded 2 goals, 3 goals. But the fact that you're going to concede bonus points the moment you concede goals as well is affected people like him who come from not very good defenses. So that's a factor. I mean, and in general, the macro point here is when the bonus points got readjusted, you need to have a look at above average FPL's bonus point pod if you haven't already. It's the attackers and the forwards who benefit, and it's the goalkeepers and the defenders that sort of lose out. But Pras made a good point, is that the good defenders and the good keepers still get more bonus points than the poor goalkeepers and poor defenders. So this is it. Your thoughts?
Russ?
I think it's a double. So when we think about the bonus, it's a double hit to defenders. So like you said, it's not just because attackers are getting better, defenders are getting worse. So you will now lose bonus if you concede a goal, and your attacker who's getting fouled basically because he's trying to equalize, or if that's the scenario, attackers are fouled a lot more or have shots on target, they will get more bonus. So you're getting a double hit. It's almost as if this season FPL has said that we are okay with a 50-point gap between good or more than a 50-point gap. Usually it's around 200 is the benchmark for a good midfielder or a forward, and 150 is a good benchmark for a defender. I think this year is going to widen just because of the bonus. Now, that's one side of the argument. And the other one, which we said in the first original pod which we had, is also we don't need to overreact. Like not one player has lost a double digit in terms of the points lost. So a good player is still a good player. A good defense is still a good defense. We don't need to start thinking that I will definitely avoid Porro because he's just lost bonus. I think you need to definitely avoid Porro because his XGC conceded is bad. So we have to sort of marry these two things and then decide. Like Pickford, good example. We've just talked about Pickford and Martinez as being our go-to 5 million options. And if they were 4.5, I don't think even we'd have a discussion. We'd pick one of those these two, even though they are at the end of sort of the top 2 who would lose bonus in the new bonus point system. So I think that's something to recalibrate our thinking in terms of the bonus point system as well.
Correct, because Pickford is still top with 15 bonus despite losing 7. In terms of sum of new bonus, there's nobody higher than him. So he's still a good keeper for bonus points, just even slightly less, just relatively less.
Yeah. What's your perception now of Porro? Who used to be your boy no matter what last season? I remember he's your guy. What's your thoughts on them now, Zoff?
Now, I think the large part of the time when he benefited was due to Maddison's absence, both of set pieces and in open play. Now, with Maddison fit, I think Porro takes fewer set pieces and also plays a more withdrawn role slightly. He doesn't have to come as much as a number 10. So it's a wait and watch for me on Porro. I don't think his returns will be as high, but he's still a good option. And if you ask me 5.5 million, who's a defender to get? I can't think of anyone really better.
All right. Any other names or things that jump out to you here, or we should move to the other
Let's
bonus
just look at this
last?
one also, the next table. Now,
this isn't bonus gainers. What this table says is who amongst the defenders got the most amount of bonus under the new bonus point system.
Correct.
That's essentially what it tells us. So the good picks remain good picks is the point we're making here. Like look at the top 10. Who are the defenders and goalkeepers who got double-digit bonus? Trippier, Pickford, Trent. Trent is up there. White, Zinchenko, Leno, Guardiola. Guardiola, interesting, where the amount of bonus that he had continued to remain the same. So he still managed to get 12 bonus points. And a huge chunk of that was from that 4 goal, 2, 3 assist run in the last 5, 6 gamings. Pras is nodding his head. Every
Fucking.
time every time he remembers it, Pras is like, buddy. And Zoff is smoking him because I was sitting on Guardiola.
It's one of those FPL moments where I was not watching the game, right? And you get alerts. And so it's that Man City game going on and Man City score. And I'm like, I'm covered. I've got Man City defense, I've got Haaland, and I've got Foden. So who can hurt me? And so basically, first alert, Guardiola goal. I'm like, fair enough. It's okay. It's 1 goal. Edison will be 6 points fewer. It's okay. And then basically, okay, it's halftime and clean sheet is coming. I think in one of the games, Edison even went off. And I was like, okay, this is the time he'll make up for the goal because Edison has gone off, clean sheet locked. Guardiola will concede, and then we're even. Another alert, Guardiola goal. I'm like, what? Basically, we've gone from saying that this is I can only get a green arrow from this game to getting a dark red arrow. So it's one of those moments where you're like, I hate the guy, but I'll get him anyway next year.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, man, Guard is a pick, man. That jumps out to me. Trent also is up there. There's a reason why there are 6 million above. One thing that Baker did point out in the pod was that Saliba's baseline bonus was the same, but Gabriel's went up. And one of the big theories that I'm a big fan of that they pointed out was the dog cat theory, where the dog defender that sort of is the more aggressive one. If you're thinking Vidic, Rio, think Vidic, that's the dog defender. That also tends to win more fouls. So he tends to accumulate more bonus points. This is what happened with Gabriel. So his baseline bonus went up. So if you're sort of deciding between two 4.5 million defenders, go for the dog versus the cat. The dog is the one that is the more aggressive one. The cat is the one that is sort of more behind reading the play, sort of an intercepting a little later. So that's one thing that sort of stood out to me from the defender pod. A couple of names do jump out to me. Van de Ven is on 9 bonus points for a 4.5 million defender. That's not too bad. I'm not seeing too many 4.5 million defenders on this chart, which is quite interesting. Mikolenko up there as well with 8 bonus points. So that's quite interesting. That jumps out to me. Anything else that jumps out to you, boys?
But how many of these were just on clean sheets? I think with Van der Ven, I think most of these bonus points he got when they were attacking returns. But what I found interesting is have a look at Konsa. At 64 fouls won, he's almost double. I think more than double any other player over here. But you look at his bonus points, unchanged. 7, then 7 now. So again, I do think we are sort of reading too much into this.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that has to do with Konsa's team conceding goals. They weren't very good for clean sheets, I think. So that's down to that as well.
Correct.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think you summarize it for the defenders is they will be hit in points. And just like we talked about for the premium keeper versus the cheap keeper, premium defender versus cheap defender, I think the gap will widen. Of course, it doesn't mean a cheap defender doesn't do very well. But I think if you nail down a good premium defender, he should widen the gap because now bonus is out of the picture, or maybe they're within the bonus, as you can see at the top of this table. So my takeaway is good defenders are worth it.
All right.
I
Cool.
think that's driving home the point a lot more, especially what you said about the goalkeepers. You look at the top 5, top 6 guys on this list, all from the top 6 clubs bar Leno. And here I was thinking I'm going to be spending less in defense. I think Anderson is probably a standout over here. We should mention we are going to be talking about Munoz a lot. 11 bonus points at 4.5 for a centre back is solid.
See, there's two different directions with defenders that you can take, and some of it comes down to preference, some comes down to which narrative you want to go with. We also have to remember last season had the highest number of goals scored ever by a distance. I think we had reached by Gameweek 35, we had reached a point where it had reached the previous season. So we also have to keep that in context, that we don't live in a league where now every manager is just sitting back. Like we're losing. The trend is Moises are going out, Lopeteguis are coming in, and that's happening at every club. So that trend, even in promoted teams, there is no scene of, okay, we're going to be defending for 90 minutes and hope for a draw. Teams are coming to give it a go. All the managers look great from the promoted team. So there is that theme, which is basically, are defenders worth it if they're going to be conceding so many games and clean sheets aren't worth it? But there is the counter theme to say good defenders should still be worth it in some sense, because you still have to play 3 guys who have to play in defense. And so if you're playing three guys, maybe using a million more to take your 4.5 to a 5.5. 4 I'm not a fan of. Like maybe a 5 to a 6 could maybe be worth it than that additional million that you could spend in midfield. So that's basically what we need to think about.
Right. So I think what we should do next is talk about premium defenders, and we'll just discuss Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. But before we do that, let's have Pras talk about the exciting association that we have with Sleeper.
Yep, we will do that. So, guys, I mean, we talked about it in the last pod, but not everybody watches every single podcast. So, I just want to summarize this new partnership. So, very, very excited to announce that we have partnered with Sleeper. Sleeper is a US-based app that they run lots of draft games, lots of other fun games like Pick'em, and they are basically expanding internationally into our football. And so, as part of that, they have partnered with us to help reach out to the audience, that the global audience that the FPL Wire has. And we're going to play a really fun game. It's called Pick'em. Pick'em is basically, for each game week, you have 10 matches. For each of the 10 matches, you need to pick the result. You need to pick whether it's the home team that wins or the away team that wins, or it's a draw. That's it. Not the score, just the result. And over a period, let's say a month, whoever has the better prediction or whoever picks more points, because you get 1 point for being right on each game. So 40 points a month, let's say. If you are highest in the table, you win every month a custom Premier League jersey of your choice. And we will keep accumulating that over the year. And at the end of the season, there will be 380 points up for grabs. So whoever has the highest points, you will basically win a PlayStation 5. If you're second, you will still win a PlayStation 5. If you're third to eighth, you will also get a Premier League jersey of your choice. So that's basically what we wanted to announce. Now, you have to remember, this game is a peer-to-peer game. One of us is going to win for sure. So this is a game of you have to get all of them correct. And if you get all of them correct, actually the probability of that is 0.005%. Here, 10 people are going to be winning. 8 of them will win a jersey. 2 of them will win a PS5. Over the year, 12 people will win a custom Premier League jersey because we will have a monthly winner. So that's what we want to reiterate. Ella, do you want to talk about the Discord benefits as well?
Just want to say, if at all you lose interest for a month, etc., as well, you can join any month because we have the jersey up for grabs every month. And if you're somebody who's a member of our Patreon or a YouTube member, that odds of winning a Premier League jersey go even higher because we have a separate league just for the YouTube and Discord and Patreon members, where the top 3 every month get a Premier League kit. And I mean, so shout out to our Discorders. You guys need to start joining this league because we've got 200, 250 people on there. 50 or 60 have joined the league so far. And we're handing out 3 kits every month. So the odds are just really good to even get your investments into the YouTube and Patreon membership back, So I think those are really good odds. And even I'm going to be buying for the prizes.
Yep.
I do fancy the United away kit.
I like the new Chelsea away kit this season as well. I'm not buying the home kit. The home kit looks like a Surf Excel box, but at least
that EasyJet kit.
Yeah, exactly. EasyJet, TFL kit, whatever you call it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Another couple of Discord benefits I wanted to mention. I'll be posting now. This is not Discord. This is Patreon and YouTube. I'll be posting all the images we use on the pods now on our Patreon channel. So you can always log on to Patreon, see all the images and tables we use on the pod as well. And also adding ad-free podcasts on audio versions. So signing up.
Zoff and I are hosting an 45 to an hour long Q&A session this Thursday. So we do have exclusive content for our Patreon and YouTube members as well. So, that's an additional benefit too.
Right. I'll be sending out the link on the Patreon email later today. Cool, guys. Let's jump into the player numbers.
More than player numbers, I think we can just take a step back and talk what our perception of Arsenal defense versus Liverpool defense versus City defenses, and let's talk about the 6 million or above players. Zoff, I'll come to you first. Which out of the 3 premiums are appealing to you at the start? How many are you considering? What's the thinking there?
My general thought process now is go with one perma play guy at 6 or 7 million, either Guardiola or a Trent. Secondly, I want to get Munoz, sort of somebody in the 5 million bracket. 5.5, I'm not seeing anyone that appealing, but I think Munoz has the ceiling there to deliver premium returns. And the third one, most likely rotating between 1 from 3.
But like you're set, let's park the 5.5 or below. let's talk only 6 million or above, when analyzing them, right? Now, City seem like a much more stable environment in terms of clean sheet ability, and Arsenal seem like a much more stable environment than Liverpool. Do you think Trent is going to continue have that ceiling under Slot? What's your perception there?
We have some numbers we will talk about over there, but in general, in terms of defense, I'm not as convinced on Liverpool yet. I'd like to go with the known commodities we have in Guardiola, because even with Trent, although he does appeal, and Trent is sort of the holy grail to us as FPL managers. You look at his chance creation numbers from last year in the second half of the season, he was actually worse than Robertson. Robertson averaged close to 2.6, Trent 1.3. Because what happens when he goes into midfield, I think he's actually a bit of a worse FPL option than when he goes to right back, because he then starts playing a deeper quarterback role. You don't see him making late runs into the box or doing those crosses at the byline. So I'm waiting to see where exactly he uses Trent. We have some numbers that show his right back gets a lot of attacking returns. But with Guardiola, I just know what I'm getting. He's having a full preseason now. He's already joined up with City on the tour. You get assist threat from open play, you get goal threat from set pieces and open play. And in terms of the XG numbers, I think City are going to do a bit better than they were last season.
Russ?
Just a couple of counterpoints to that. I mean, of course, I agree with everything they're saying, but just the other points, other side of it. On Guardiola, there is basically the thought that last season they had started playing Doku, who was basically coming in, and on the left, when you have to keep width, basically it was Guardiola who was doing that. So you saw Guardiola actually as far as the corner flag in terms of, on the touch line. Of course, he comes in. If the attack is happening from the right-hand side, he can come and join the attack. So he did. He was very, very attacking. But if you look at the first half of the season, that was not happening. He was actually inverting. So when you invert, then it's still okay, but it's still not as attacking as we saw at the end of last season. So I wonder if a lot of what Grealish ended up doing, what Guardiola ended up doing was because Grealish was not starting games. And in the games that Grealish does start, because in preseason we're seeing Grealish is fit, we're seeing that Foden won't be ready by this time. So if Grealish is the one who starts on the left, and by the way, it was also sometimes Foden playing there. And we know that Foden likes to come in and almost plays at 10. If it is Grealish there, Grealish is your boy who basically holds width on the left. He's been doing that very, very well for very important games. I wonder if Guardiola is as attacking under him. He's still a good pick. Man City has still a good defense. But then is that appeal still there?
Him being in is actually a good thing, because if you remember 3 or 4 of the goals he scored, they were from sort of like the left inside forward channel where he took a pop from outside the box. Like a Pep Guardiola wingback position is a difficult position to master in terms of what's expected of him, etc. Right? So there could also be a school of thought where he just took half a season to get used to that position. And we were all wondering what the hell Pep is doing with one of the highest rated center backs in the world by playing him as this attacking sort of left back player. Maybe he took like half a season to learn the tricks of the trade, and then he was just unplayable. Conversely, now people have tape on that, right? Like opposition managers will be thinking that, okay, we need to watch out for Guardiola because it's a genuine threat as well. So there are both sides of the narrative. If he continues to play wing back, I just think it's a very, very good prospect at 6 million. Almost feels safer than Liverpool. And one of the reasons for that is also the fixtures, right? Like, let's dive a little deeper into the fixtures and let's look at first 5, because we're all looking at primarily a wildcard 6 window, right? So City's got Chelsea away. Now we don't know what to expect from Chelsea. They've started off really slow in preseason, which is a little bit worrying. Then you got Ipswich at home, West Ham away, Brentford at home. I feel like all 3 are clean sheet fixtures on paper. And conversely, like my perception about Liverpool is a little wavy when it comes to clean sheet fixtures. The first 3 are Ipswich away, Brentford at home. Brentford away at home is a good fixture, and then United away. Like I'm dicey about clean sheet prospects in the 2 away games there. Then Liverpool in the first 3. Then the money fixtures come in 4 and 5, which are Forest and Everton away. So like that's the thing.
Forest and Bournemouth at home for Liverpool.
Everton, not
no.
Bournemouth at home. Yes. So yeah, Bournemouth at home. So like that's the thing. It's tough, man. And then there's also a school of thought that's going on in my head where it's just saying that if he's more possession based, it's less chaotic. Then Liverpool probably do better when it comes to clean sheets. But one of the biggest problems that they do have at the moment is they don't have a strong enough 6. Like Endo didn't do really well in the preseason game, and who's going to be playing as the 6? They don't have a strong position. Like McAllister also, doesn't inspire confidence as the 6 when it comes to defensive stability. So that's the thing. And if you can move to the numbers under slot also, Zoff, while we're talking
Yes.
about
Let
Trent,
me
I'll
bring
quickly
that
just
up.
discuss that. So what happened in the preseason also was that uh, I think what's his name? Bradley was really attacking and he got a lot of chances and he was inside the box also on a few occasions. So when he was attacking, the other side wing back, who was Simikas in this case, sort of inverted and moved into midfield. Now, under slot, what used to happen is Gertruda was the guy that was inverting. And even when he was inverting, so he played center back, right back, left back, center midfielder, as you can see these positions, he managed to get 8 goals and 5 assists, which are a very high number of returns. Well, whereas the other wing back on the other side, who was maybe attacking, got 5 goals and 2 assists. So there are returns for their wing backs out here. It's just that when it comes to understanding who's going to be playing the attacking role, whether Trent is even going to be playing wing back or in midfield, whether Robbo is going to tuck in as the third CB if Trent's inverting, we're going to get that information after a couple of games. We don't have that information yet. And what's going to happen is we're going to have to react very quickly in terms of extrapolating 1 or 2 preseason friendly datas into like, okay, this is how we're expecting Liverpool to play in the first 5 games. So that's the thing.
Because you also have to
We'll
keep in
only
mind
get
his
one
right
game.
winger used to keep the width. Now Salah is not going to be somebody who's going to be hugging the touchline. Salah is also going to be wanting to come into the box a lot. So the lot of chemistry things also we need to analyze with Liverpool.
And the big red flag with Liverpool is basically we already know, we talked about it in the last pod, that most of the first teamers are not even going to play in the US trip, right? After the US trip, where they play Man United on the 3rd of August, they basically have one game, which is home to Sevilla on the 11th of August, one game before game week 1. So that's it, where we'll have to analyze between Gakpo, Darwin, Jota, who starts with Salah, how attacking is Salah, how attacking or who's holding the width for Liverpool. I do see a scenario where we will run out of information and we'll say we just don't know. We just don't know. And that's fine. That can happen with preseason. But we have to remember that.
There is a school of thought there, right? Like we don't know at the moment. And the first 3 fixtures for Trent look a little iffy. Why don't just bank 2 clean sheets, starting with a Saliba until game week 3 and make that switch in game week 4 if Trent looks like he's the pick or if Robbo looks like he's the pick. Like we'll have enough information by that. You're getting a great shot at 2 banker clean sheets until then. And if you don't feel the need to, you have no comms holding on to a
You get
Saliba,
that
which is
with
best
Guardiola
defensive.
also, right? Similar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Similar. Like that's the thinking. Like, so there is a school of thought there. Like, I feel like we might be undervaluing Arsenal because of the fixtures. Like, if you actually think about it, out of the 2 away games in 4 and 5, it's very likely Arsenal get 1 clean just because they're Arsenal and they sort of exhaust their opposition.
Yeah, but again, we counterpoint from the last pod. The Arsenal clean sheet is there, but they're turning into the City team, which is basically
Yeah.
6 point clean sheet. So, I like it. I like Saliba, but I'm not desperate to have him. Like it
Yeah.
would be nice, and I think he'll be a hygiene pick going forward. Everybody will have one Arsenal defender, and you don't even care if Arsenal concede. Or I think that's what after game week 10, 12, that's what will happen. But I think early season there is you could chance it. And yesterday in my first draft video, I was talking about the fact that you if you're committing to a wildcard 6 or if you're very keen to target a wildcard 6, then I think there is merit to target 3 home games: Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, and away to Ipswich. Because if you look at
Yeah.
it that way, and
Yeah.
even if you have to bench him in away to Man United, you don't play Robertson, you play
Yeah.
your bench guy. It's not the worst, and I do think there is
Yeah.
upside there.
And you're not getting Trent for the clean sheets alone, man.
Yeah.
Trent's got free kicks, corners, set pieces, like he's got the whole works. And he's just Trent. Like, let's face it, like the season he had last year was probably an underperforming sort of season, and that's probably the floor for a player like Trent just because of sheer ability. So I buy that point. Like, I know for a fact that I have Trent in my draft, but let's say at the moment Morgan, who's a 5 million midfielder in my current draft, looks iffy and I want a million to push forward into my midfield. That's the first place. Like Trent to Guardiola is the first place I'm going to look.
Fair enough. I mean, Guardiola, I think one other thing, and I'm not trying to scaremonger people of Guardiola. Ake was not fit back end of last season. Any issues, or do you guys think? I think I'm with you. I know the answer before you answer, but he's still there, right? Ake will be
Yeah.
there, Diaz will be there, Akanji will be there, Walker will be there, Stones will be there, and it's Pep.
I feel like the best point at any point of the season to buy a City defender who looks likely first choice is the first 5 games of the season. Like the sort of rotation and the things where he shifts his team from first choice, etc., starts happening when Champions League and the other cup competitions come. Like it's always been the case where the first 5 6 weeks, it's always one City defender that sort of the first four sort of start always. That's the
Right.
thing.
And again, Ake
Yep.
has not had much of a preseason. That works in Guardiola's favor as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, practically speaking, I think when they play Man United in the Community Shield, the first time Guardiola touches the ball in the penalty box, everybody puts him into the team. That's where we
Yeah.
are with
Pretty
Guardiola.
much.
I mean, why don't we show people what Guardiola was up to last
Yes,
season?
that is an excellent chart.
I mean, this is the beautiful stats bomb data that we are going to get. Just look at the number of shots he's taken. And the best part is the circles are the foot shots and the triangles are the headers. Is that it? I can't read the
The
chart.
it
One
says
second.
triangles from through ball. The headers are the circles. in fact.
Triangles are from through balls,
The headers are
and
the
the headers are the
circles.
circle, and the hexagons are the footed shots. So you see
Yes.
that. So, Pras, this is what I was talking about. If you think about the kind of shots that Guardiola took from outside the box, is that slight left position, inside forward position from just outside the D.
Yeah.
Like he took a lot of pops, and then if you see, there's a couple of like extra highlighted shots there. Those are the ones that went in. He's got it all. I mean, this shot man just looks bloody good for a player like Guardiola. He was a great threat on set pieces as well, so he's got it all. You know,
Right.
that's the thing. And this is not even showcasing the chance creation threat that Guardiola had.
Yeah, he's a Cancelo who offers you your threat from set pieces as well, and who can actually finish.
Yeah, man. As long as he plays in the left back position that he played last season.
Let's have a look at some of the numbers in general for a lot of these players now. Ben White and the Arsenal defense are right on top, but Guardiola's matching them with 12 returns. Now, this returns includes attacking returns as well as clean sheets, and he had 3 double-digit hauls, more than any other defender for the second half of last season. Him, Guardiola, and I think Sher are there right on top. So the ceiling very high there.
I don't know if you have Zoff the Fraser chart.
Yes, I do.
I think that visually says exactly what you're trying to say. So this is the first one.
The
which is
first two are the
basically
first two are the goalkeepers. This is the
Yeah,
one
so-
with. You want to go back to the goalkeeper one?
No. So the defenders one. So this is the first one, which is the non-pen XGI per 90
Yeah.
on the x-axis, and on the y-axis you have expected clean sheets per 90. So this is second half of season data. So shout out to FPL Fraser who does these charts. We used them last year as well. Really, really fantastic to basically say what we have been saying. Because if you look at this chart, the top layer is Arsenal because they have the best expected data. So within Arsenal, you see that the most attacking was Gabriel in terms of it was Tomiyasu, but his minutes were very poor. And then you go leftwards towards the least attacking. So Saliba of goals is little to no threat in terms of his attacking output. Then you get to the next level, which is basically Man City. You see all the Man City defenders there. You see Guardiola is well ahead. In fact, he's in terms of attacking numbers, he's after Robertson and Trent the third best. Then you have Stones and some of the other defenders. And then you get to basically a muddled picture of our tier 2 and tier 3 defenses that we talked about. But within that, there are defenders that stand out. And Trent and Robertson are those two. But then you also see at the end, the Trippiers of the world or Ryan Aït-Nouri's, which are bad defenses, but still have good attacking data like Gusto, Regulion. But the interesting chart actually is the next one, if you go to it, Zoff, where what Fraser does is basically he not only adds the non-pen XGI, but he also adds the expected clean sheets because a defender can get attacking returns as well as a clean sheet. This is the point that you're making, where look at Guardiola now. He's top right. Basically, he's got the minutes. So on the y-axis here, you have minutes per appearance. And on the x-axis, you have non-pen XGI plus expected clean sheets. So when you add the fact that it's a great defense and an attacking defender, Guardiola actually is beating or even close to a Gabriel. Those two stand out as the best defenders that you can get. Trent and Robertson a little bit below because their minutes per appearance actually were low. So if their minutes per appearance you think are higher, they would be up there with Gabriel,
They'll be up there.
Guardiola, Trent and Robertson. So what we are basically trying to say is you're trying to counterbalance a little bit of a worse defense with a much better attacking output with Trent and Robertson. And we don't know the answer. Under Slot, will that be worse or better than what we saw last season? So there is that upside you can chase with Trent Robertson, but the comfort guys that that did well, that will continue to do well under the same manager with the same team are Gabriel and Guardiola essentially, and White is not too far as well. So I really thought visually this was a great chart.
Any other
All
names
right.
stand out there,
So
LR?
no, we've done the analysis. Now it's the time to like not sit on the fence in terms of what picks do we like. I feel like Pras, Trent or Guardiola, which way are you leaning as things stand?
I mean, there's no question. If there's no money, I'm with Trent. If money is not an object, but money is an object, 1 million goes a long way. So if you're saying what works better, for me it depends on your wildcard window. If your wildcard window is game week 6, then I will do whatever I can to get Trent. Whatever. Because 3 home games and 1 away game to Ipswich, I have to have Trent. If your wildcard window is shorter, let's say you're looking for a game week 4 wildcard, then you can avoid Trent. Because then you're what you're saying is away to Ipswich, away to Man United, and home to Brentford. You don't have to have a Trent. You could have a Saliba instead. You could have a Gabriel instead. You can have a Guardiola. So it really depends on what is your fixture horizon. Unfortunately, I keep coming back to fixture horizon. What are you planning against? I just think that's how we'll have to tailor it.
Love?
Guardiola.
Yeah.
I'll move
At
to
the
Trent
mo-
once I see what I see.
Yeah, same. I'm on Trent at the moment, but there is a world where Guardiola's attacking threat just is better than Trent. Like the problem is we've got like half a season of sample size to go on. So it literally is going to come down, like you mentioned, Pras, in the last week. I'm going to judge how Trent's looking in that last preseason game, how Guardiola's going to look in the Community Shield, and make that call there. Are all three of us agreeing that these two picks are better than Gabriel and Saliba?
For the start of the season, yes. Obviously not long term.
All right.
Completely.
And for those that do want to go Arsenal defender, do you prefer Gabriel or Saliba? Because there is a school of thought that Gabriel's position could be under threat now that they've signed Califury and Timber. But he's got the higher upside when it comes to set pieces. But I just feel like the safe pick is Saliba, and I wouldn't want to worry about that when I'm spending 6 million defense, so I would go Saliba.
I think I'd go Gabriel because I don't think at the start of the season he's going to mess around with a settled defense. So just for the additional goal threat, I think it would be the Brazilian for me.
He mentioned in his press conference also. Go on, Pras, sorry.
No. I was saying basically it's 2. It's not just Califury, it's also Timber.
Yeah.
And Timber in one of the friendlies played on the right, and Ben White came in and played basically right centre back. Now I know Gabriel plays left centre back, but Saliba equally played left centre back for France. So you could also have Saliba playing left centre back, White playing right centre back, and Timber playing on the right. On the left, you could have Zinchenko. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's not just Califury that's become a problem now. Timber being fit is a problem for Gabriel as well. It's great for Arsenal, of course.
But I don't think that's what
Arteta
happened.
alluded.
Yeah, it happened the other way around. I think Timber played centre back, White played right back because he said there's no point in displacing White.
Correct. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. As in now they could have a right centre back and Saliba could shift left centre back.
But Arteta alluded to not wanting to change much. He's like, I didn't play this position here because Gabriel's used to playing in this position. White is used to playing in this position. I want some stability and know-how. So does he break up one of the best centre-back partnerships? No, the best centre-back partnership in Europe early season? That would be a doubt. Still, I don't think there's much of a difference between Gabriel and Saliba's goal threat also. I feel like Saliba was pretty decent end of last year as well. First 5 games, I'd just be safe with Saliba. That's all.
I don't agree with that. I remember seeing the XG numbers were significantly different. I think let's just have a quick look over here. It's not penalty area touches, half season XGI. Now, I think, Gabriel is now, I think, is close up there in terms of minutes per expected XGI. I think in the top 15 over there. Saliba is nowhere near. You don't.
Second half data, again, I'm looking at the Fraser chart. He's about 0.18 non-pen XGI, which is great for Gabriel, by the way. And Saliba is 0.04. So there is actually a material difference. But you could also argue the other thing, right? Which Ted talked about with Baker, which is sometimes everybody knows that Gabriel is the guy they're shooting for. So when you try to become a better defense, better attack in set pieces, the idea is to have multiple targets, not just one target. So maybe there is something around that where Saliba is at the end of some goals, even though he's not at the end of a lot of chances.
Yeah, full season XG for Gabriel is the second highest in the league, only to Cash. 4.24 Gabriel, 4.28 Cash.
Incredible.
Look at Guardiola climbing up that table just quickly into the second
minutes.
half.
Consider the minutes that he's played. It's mad.
Yeah. You want to go through some of the tables now before we move into the cheaper bracket of defenders? I think now is a good time to do that.
Sure. I think let's just let's just go through these guys really quick. Now, we know the returns over here. We mentioned the top guys do well. Branthwaite is somebody to watch out for. I think if he can find a nail down spot as a 5.0, the thing is you have to rotate him still, right? You're not going to play him for any of the away games. Is a 5.0 rotatable defender even an option?
He's priced out as a pick at 5 million in my opinion.
Plus,
I don't
Martinez at
think-
Man United is 4.5 and Branthwaite will be at Man United. So people will pick Martinez anyway.
He's just priced out. He's not going to be a pick this year, I reckon.
Correct. Okay, pen touches. Guardiola, this is second half of the season. Guardiola right on top. But another name I think we didn't mention in the trend discussion is Robertson. He also showed a lot more of goal threat last season. Now, 48 penalty box touches is a serious number considering even he missed some minutes in the second half. He takes the set pieces on one side. Good assist potential. There's some doubt about his start because of fitness. His exertions over the summer with Scotland. Is he an alternative by saving 1 million more?
I'm not convinced. Like, I feel like he could not be playing as advanced. I feel like he's aging. So unless I see him taking up the same positions he did under Klopp in that last or second last preseason friendly, I won't go there. I feel like Van Dijk might be better. That's it. And I just don't know how attacking Robbo might be. Like, I need to see more proof. That's all.
Trust
So
you
it's
had
a
both in
question
your
mark.
draft. What do you think?
I have both. I just think he's the third best pick from Liverpool. If you're going to, as we know now, it could become Szoboszlai, it could become Darwin Gakpo. So I'm not saying they're bad picks, but as we know now, if you wanted to basically have you wanted to target the Liverpool fixtures, I think he's a good pick. And I think at the moment I would pick him over even Guardiola. I know it's risky, but it feels like there is risk to take, especially when defender bonuses have gone down. Like what are you losing?
You're picking him for attacking threat though, right, Pras?
Also clean sheet potential because his fixtures are much better than Arsenal and City in the first 5.
Let's say a 4.5 or 5 million Liverpool defender like a Konsa or somebody emerges as the first choice centre back. Would you go there instead of Robbo to save the cash?
If I need it, I could think about it. But for Liverpool, I mean, Robertson, we've seen the numbers. We're talking about penalty area touches. So, of course, we need evidence.
But like this is one of those factors where those numbers need to be taken with a greater pinch of salt because new manager, right? Like that's the one thing.
See, it's always two things, right? If you're saying, let's say, Salah, people have Salah and Haaland drafts, and we're not talking about midfielders and forwards today. But
Correct.
It's always a trade-off. When I look at your draft, when you guys have Salah and Haaland, my first instinct is Salah can easily come down to Saka. How much do I give up? I save 2 million. How much do I give up?
Yeah.
In fact, I save 2.5 million. And then your 4.5 defender, I take him up to Trent. And I go Trent plus Saka versus a 4.5 defender and Salah. No brainer. This is why whenever I get into a double premium discussion, I always conclude the same thing, which is Trent plus Saka. Of course, Trent plus Saka.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying it's a little bit difficult. You can still have a Guardiola, you can still have a Robertson, and by having just one premium, you can still have Trent plus Saka. That's where I am, at least structurally at the moment. And so Robertson is a key part of that, because if I already have Trent, if I already have, let's say, Guardiola, then I could still have Robertson as well as my third defender. I could.
Got it. So you're favoring going with 3 premium defenders rather than any rotation?
Minimum 2. I could look at 3.
Another player I wanted to highlight here is Munoz. Obviously a favorite of this spot. 43 penalty box touches. Up there with, I think, more than Ben White, more than Bradley. I think Mitchell also you see on the other side, 38. The wingbacks are getting a lot of attacking potential under Glasner.
Can we talk about Munoz very quickly? If you can give me a short map, I just want to make one point.
Go ahead.
Like, I think I've mentioned on this pod at least 8 times, but I think it was happenstance that Munoz didn't get a goal. And you see, if Munoz is going to get a goal, it's very, very likely going to be a tap-in. Like, you see this box that's very close to the penalty area box. It's not even the D. It's inside. It's like a big chance. That's why I like Munoz as a pick, because he's goal hanging there all the time. And a lot of times it just happened that other players inside the box got that touch. It happens that maybe it's tactics where they want Munoz to distract the defender so that Mateta gets that shot. But I like the predictability of something like this, because 1 or 2 balls will fall to him and it's a huge chance. for a player like Munoz. And I don't think anybody in the league, any defender in the league is going to play as far forward as Munoz is, at least as things stand, if he plays in the same role that he did, which is why it's one of the few. I've seen a lot of Andersons in draft, and I feel like this is one of the few instances where spending the 0.5 more is worth it. And this is something I want to shout out to Tom Freeman. He agrees with me. He's like, this is the differential, because like he also doesn't see many people going for somebody like him, and there is a goal or two there in the first 5-6 weeks as a differential. I'm very excited by the pick. Remind me 5 days before if I'm compromising on this spot. Like I don't want to.
Yeah.
And it's also
You should do a
old
pod
school
pack.
FPL. Right? You like to watch FPL when you have these exciting attacking players also, right? So it's catering to sort of those urges and needs also. So yeah, that's awesome.
So what do you guys think about going with two 4.0 defenders? And now let's talk a little bit about the cheapies. Somebody like a Bako has emerged who's taking corners. So my previous draft that I had, my 4 defender was a 4.5. But now what I've done, I've downgraded him down to Bako and upgraded Anderson to a Munoz, right? Because I think ultimately the 3 guys you're going to be playing every week, Bako and Harwood Bellis can sub in, like,
So what's your defense as things stands off?
As of now, it's I think Munoz, Bako, Guardiol, Harwood Bellis, and Konsa. I think I'd probably bench Konsa in the first 3 weeks, or maybe play him against West Ham. I don't remember right exactly. Yeah, Konsa against West Ham, Barco against Manchester United, and then game week 3 again, Konsa against Leicester. That's the plan.
Yeah, I don't mind it because you've got Harwood Bellis in game week 2 when Aston Villa play Arsenal, and Harwood Bellis has Forest at home in game week 2. So he even covers Konsa's fixture.
But I'd rather play Barco, who's taking corners against the team we saw just conceded the most set pieces last season.
Yeah, fair shot. You
then
have a double
4.0
option.
guys who are playing. So let's just talk about defense structure. Do you guys think it's viable to go with 2 4.0s this season? I think it is, because you get guys.
If you're looking at if you're looking at early wildcard, yes.
Because you have 4.0 guys who play. They're not completely bench for that. You have at Leicester, at Southampton, even at Ipswich. So ultimately, you want guys who can step up. There. I do think it's a viable option if you need to squeak out that additional 0.5.
Especially if Barco turns out to be what he is, which is then a 4.5 or 5 million defender.
Absolutely. And let's just go back to the Fraser chart now.
Russ, your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I made my thought clear. I would change your draft. I would keep the 2 4.0 if you want to. I would upgrade Konsa to Trent and get Saka instead of Salah. And that's a beautiful draft.
So like, Russ is in the favor of the 3 perma play guys. So he doesn't mind the 2 4.0s.
I'm just saying, I would also like a better second bench. But I think Bako looks great. The only problem is his fixtures aren't ideal, but you don't need to play them. Like sometimes you can just have a good 4.0 defender there, so he can cover injuries before your wildcard or something. So I think it's doable. I think Barco and Harwood Bellis are fantastic, good options.
Yes, let's spend some time now on the 4.5 billion or below defenders, because I think they're going to form a large core.
We need to talk about we go top to bottom, right? So
sure.
Any point at all, any of you all think White is an option compared to the other ones? No.
It's a weird price point at 6.5 between your Guardiola and Trent. I think I just go for a Gabriel and save the half.
Yeah, and if you want attacking threat, I feel like Guardiola and Trent have substantially higher attacking threat. So agreement, Pras?
Well, when I talk to Arsenal fans and even in our Discord, people say White is the best pick this year. If he was 6 million, everybody would have White because of nailedness. Like no matter what happens, Saliba and White are not going anywhere. Hopefully Gabriel is the same, but Gabriel falls into the Robertson category of, we don't know this season if it will be the same or not. So from that point of view, I like it. And again, going back to Zoff's example, you downgrade Salah to Saka, 2.5 million, your Barco becomes White. And so you can play around. I don't think it's completely unviable to go White, but logically, maybe not early with those fixtures.
All right, we're now going to cover Verge we spoke about, Robbo we spoke about, Guardiola we spoke about, trips not needed. All right, City defenders 5.5, figure it out after the first 5 weeks because we just don't know what's going to happen. Is there a 5.5 billion City defender? Rafa Kanji, Ake, Cancelo, Ruben, Stones, Walker that you fancy for the first 5 weeks? Maybe Walker?
Walker again could come back late.
Nobody, right?
Maybe Akanji. I think Akanji, but again, I wouldn't go there.
All right. Poro, a pick for the first 2 games?
Definitely.
I think you stick with him. I don't think you buy him just for the first 2 games. You stick with him for let's just have a quick look at the fixtures again. It's Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Brentford at home, Manchester United away. Could get attacking returns because then Arsenal, Brentford at home. I think you stick with Porto. You don't buy him just for 2 weeks. Just stick there and hope for attacking returns over the first 6.
Or you could rotate. Like, I would
5.5 though, plus to rotate seems a lot.
I mean,
and again,
we just
you
talked
could
about
get a
Barco.
goal.
You can
I
play
know, but
Barco in Game Week 3, for example.
I
I
know,
mean,
but
I'm just saying you could
you're
do
talking
that
to a
as
man who
well.
benched Porto in Game Week 38 for his 14-pointer, so it
Yeah,
can be
yeah, yeah.
harsh.
We all have had traumas. No, I understand. But what I was saying was, I think I don't
And
like
he scored in preseason.
he scored, but okay. I don't like Spurs defense. For all the
Yeah.
data we've looked
But
at,
I don't think he's a guy you
we
should ever bench or rotate. That's just my opinion on him.
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you're looking for an early wildcard, and like yesterday I did talk about a Game Week 4 wildcard, I think Spurs is one that you could definitely look at because you get 2 really juicy fixtures. Newcastle away not so good, but then you wildcard them out.
Yeah. It's just I'm not convinced. Like with Spurs, I feel like I'm going to monitor for the first 5. I think Spurs have a good run of fixtures Game Week 6 onwards. I'll look at Porto if Spurs look like they're going to be better. That's all. I'm not interested
Agreed.
at the moment.
I want to see
Agreed.
how many
And we
set
didn't talk
pieces
about
Maddison takes as well.
it's
All
a
right.
Madison effect, and also with Porro. I don't want to turn it into a Spurs chat, but also with Porro, I think there's also a shift of Kulusevski playing a lot more. When Kulusevski was playing on the right, then he would basically drift inside, and Porro would go further and overlap, or sometimes underlap, and that's why you saw him taking shots in the box. I think with Johnson, he's the one who basically goes into the box a lot more, and so that maybe has an effect on his attacking output. It could be Madison, it could be just noise. But those are things that maybe it's my
Good point.
confirmation that I didn't want to
Good.
go into.
No. Good point. Yeah, but I feel like there are better picks below and above that price point to start the season with. And you don't want to eventually spend transfers in defense, right? Like I'm contradicting myself because I'm pitching the Arsenal 3 game week strategy as well, but it doesn't feel like it's worth it. That's all. I know a few people are looking at Porro first 2, moving into Leaf Davis game week 3, but meh.
Side note, my wife's come back from work and is shocked to see me in my kurta. I will explain later.
The girls are watching. All right. Okay.
This is
One 5.0 million pick. We've spoken about Munoz, but I want to talk about one 5.0 million pick. A team that has great fixtures for the first 5 game weeks of the season. I reckon he's going to be very, very attacking. I think he's better than Dean. And who's the other guy who played for Aston Villa?
Moreno?
Dean Moreno, Cash.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be nailed. And I think it's going to be that inverted 3 center back thing that they do with Konsa at right back and Matson at left back. Zoff, what's your opinion? He was really good in preseason for you guys also last season. He got 2 goals, 2 assists. I feel like this role where it's attacking sort of winger role almost in a lopsided 3 at the back formation for an Aston Villa team that's got great fixtures at the start of the season. I think he's a very good underrated shout.
I think until the Champions League kicks in, Emery's fullbacks are viable, but after that, that's the one position he rotates a lot traditionally. So once the Champions League kicks in, and it's earlier this season, as we mentioned on the previous spot, Game Week 4, I wouldn't go there.
Not even the first 4, 5. You're looking at a 5 wildcard window, right? So it's West Ham away, Arsenal at home, Leicester away, Everton at home, Wolves at home. The fixtures are great. Is it just because you're looking at Konsa as one of the best 4.5s?
No, I'm looking at it as a pick in isolation. Primarily, ultimately, I don't trust Villa to invest more than 4.5 million on them yet, and I just don't know whether he's going to be getting consistent minutes. All it takes going to take is one bad performance. He might realize that he needs
spend
more
like
time
45 million on him. Like he feels like
they're a big club, Villa. They can afford to spend that guy and give him time to bed in. It doesn't mean he's not going to be a big player for them, but when you have a guy, he likes Dean. We've seen that. We may not like Dean as FPL managers, of course, but Emery does.
No, but I just think Marston's clear as a player. Like Dean's on his last legs. Like
I do agree with you. There is a succession that's probably going to happen over the season, but it might not be right at the start.
I'm with Zoff. It's one of those picks that we may all have in Wildcard 2, but not Game Week 1.
All right. I'll just say watch out for that space. I'm trying to get Freeman on the pod next week. If he gives us confirmation bias, like another exciting 5 million to look at, So the thinking in my head is Pras. If I want to go to 4.0s, then I go Guard or Trent, Munoz and Matson.
Like that you basically play every single week.
That I play every single week. And then if he doesn't start, like Zoff said, we have 2 4.0 million guys that start. So there isn't a terrible fallback option. So that's one of the thoughts that are in my head. Okay.
Right.
Any of the Chelsea picks at 5 million, I feel like it's a wait and watch until we know more.
I mean, Reece James will be in our team soon, but not now. He was inverting, right? I mean, it restricts his powers, but maybe that's better for his fitness in the
But that's
preseason
without
games.
Kukurea. I think Kukurea suits it more naturally for him to come into midfield. But again, James also played midfielder at Wigan. So either player could do that depending on the opposition and selection. But the problem with Chelsea now, he's trying to make the game even more compact. And we are very liable to a ball that's played over our defense. So the defense is going to take some time to gel. And today we've got news that Gallagher might be leaving, which completely broke my heart. It'll obviously make us a lot weaker defensively.
I was seeing this tweet on you guys had you Colville, Chalobah, James, and Chilwell as your back four, and Gallagher as basically the guy ahead of them, and all like most of them are being sold for no reason whatsoever. Like you didn't need to change anything there. Of course, barring injuries.
It's a shame. I do not like Todd.
All right.
Anybody else in the 5 million bracket? I don't think there's much else. I think let's move on to the cheapies.
Shaw might come into the picture later.
Yeah, Shaw, Dalot, Bradley, Udogi. These are the 4 names that could be of interest, but I don't think we need to delve deeper into that. We'll move to the 4.5s.
First, walk us through this chart, please.
So, I need to open it first. Hold on.
No problem. I'll just, for those guys in audio, I'll just walk you guys through who's the outliers over here. Nouri, in terms of NP XGI per 90, is up there. Reguilon, I think he's back at Spurs now. I know he was on loan, but I don't think he'll stick around.
Yeah.
Ben Mee, in terms of goal threat, really stood out for the Brentford defense. Apart from that, there's very few names. Cash had this period when he was playing wing back or right wing. So we can't really read too much into that data. Apart from that, in terms of attacking threat, it's not significant. There's nobody really above 0.5 that catches your eye.
This is what worries me in terms of when we go cheap in defense, that we are relying on either a good rotation because you want to target the good fixtures. So we really need to think about rotation, and I'm sure we'll talk about that coming up. Or we need to get defenders that will do better than what we have seen. And I think Munoz is a great example. I know we're talking about 4.5 million, but it's a great example where the models or the data will not show Munoz as high up there for XGI. He's in fact lower than Ben Mee here, if he was to be plotted here. But there were a lot of cases where had he touched the ball, then his XG would shoot up. So 4.5s, I think it's about finding the right fixtures and finding the right rotation within those defenders.
There is one guy who's got attacking threat as a 4.5. You can find somebody to play in the first 2 game weeks of the season. And our boy, I haven't talked him up, who's going to be playing as a winger. So if you do want to do the Leave Davis punt, because I don't think there's anybody else. Yeah, you want to look at Itinerary, but Wolves have rubbish fixtures at the start of the season. Like otherwise, he's the 4.5 million pick. Like there's nobody as attacking as RAN. He was spectacular. I owned him last season, and he was great to own. Like he's very, very attacking, but just doesn't have fixtures. So if you do want to do the Davis thing, it's an option, and I don't mind it. If you just want to take that punt for the first 5 weeks, you need to find somebody who's playing the first 2 game weeks. There's nobody else who's attacking. Then you need to rely on clean sheets.
Yeah. Great work on the Ipswich pod, by the way, LR. I found that fascinating because Ipswich, even though you might not be picking their players for the first 2 game weeks, you're likely going to be captaining against them in 1 and 2. So it's very important to learn about them. And I found it very interesting what Ivan said, that they're much more open defensively at home than they are away. Generally, we look to play our defenders at home. But in this case, it might be the reverse. You have to sort of factor that into your thinking as well. Away to Ipswich is actually a better fixture than home to Ipswich.
Yeah. And for your premium big hitters, not for lower opposition, right? Because they might adjust to that. And he did mention that McKenna was talking about how they've been practicing how to defend compactly, because that is something that they will need to do in the future a lot. So the preseason fixtures which were against middling to top opposition, they were playing a certain play style, which is where they're expecting to defend, sit, and play compact. And the other fixtures, they were practicing to play in another way, which is quite interesting as well. Right. So
a bit like Luton last year, right? I mean, my takeaway, like Luton also last year at home, they were like this gung-ho team that used to give up a lot of chances. So at least my sort of mirror
they
was...
try to defend away, but completely terrible at it.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a Sheffield United this season who are going to concede 100 plus goals. Nobody is really...
Doesn't look like it yet.
I think there's a stark difference between the 3 teams that went down and the 3 teams that are coming up. Like genuinely stark contrast.
I'd be
right, man. So what 4.5 defenders do we like? Let's go into the fixture tickers off and see if we spot rotations, what defenders do we like.
Yeah, so these are only teams with the 4.5 defensive options available, sorted by defense difficulty.
I mean, I feel like the most obvious pick, even if you want to sort of perma play for 5 games, as long as you find somebody to play in Game Week 2 against Arsenal at home, is Konsa. Like, genuinely, Villa have the possibility to clean sheet against any of the other 4 games. West Ham away, Leicester away, Everton at home, Wolves at home. They are genuinely 4 good fixtures for a pick like Konsa, nailed on. Uh, that's the one pick that sort of jumps out to me amongst the 4.5 guys.
I'd like to say Anderson, but I really would suggest everyone finds a $500,000 extra to get Munoz.
Yeah. The thing is, all 3 of us are such Munoz lovers. Otherwise, any other pod would be saying Anderson because it makes sense. If you're not a believer of Munoz, then Anderson makes full sense, in my opinion. And I have no comps doubling up, by the way. If people are worried that if we find a nailed Crystal Palace defender and a keeper and Anderson, I still don't mind the double up. Let me just do a little more hyping up for Crystal Palace, right? Zoff and I were talking about this, in fact, on call the other day. And it's just not the fact that they improved really well under Glasner. The midfield, their options are Wharton, Doucouré, and Lerma. Like, really good midfielders. In defense, we're talking about England centre-back Guehi and Anderson. Really good defenders. The wing-backs are Mitchell and Munoz. It's just a very good, well-rounded team with a good manager under Glasner, which is why we are believing the Crystal Palace hype. Which is why if we find a nailed Crystal Palace keeper also at 4.5, it's where I'm going to say. It's those factors that are appealing to me.
Completely spot on. Then now Forest. I think if I'm going to be getting their keeper, I won't be going near Murillo. Otherwise, I like him as an option. I don't want to double up there. I don't trust them that much.
Yeah. And Forest are a good play even with Bako. And then you can go with another 4.0 as well. Because Murillo and Bako themselves rotate. You can get Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home. And then Bako's got Ipswich at home and Forest at home in 4 and 5.
And
So that's a
Manchester
decent
United at home.
4.5, 4.0 conversation.
Now,
Sorry, Zoff, what did you say?
and Manchester United at home, game week 2.
Yeah, but you'll play Southampton away, no? The Nottingham Forest guy.
No, I'll play Bako.
Then
Southampton's first home game.
we'll
We shall
accept
see.
your 2-pointer.
We will be there.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Mykolenko? Is it too
Yeah.
obvious that we're missing out on him? Like,
There's something that feels like a trap about Mykolenko. There's something in my gut that doesn't feel right, that we are flocking to this guy who might be a gift and a Sean Dice defense at a cheaper entry point. Something over there feels off to me.
If you're finding a rotation, though, it's just great 3 clean sheet fixtures. Brighton home,
That
Bournemouth
being
home,
said,
Leicester.
I don't agree that they're necessarily good clean sheet fixtures. And I mentioned this, I think, right at the start in the first part we had. Now, Brighton, very attacking under the new manager. Bournemouth, you'll have your likes of Solanke, etc. They're, I think, a better team than Everton. And then we just hyped up Palace. We're going to be signing Kamada. They're signing Ismail Sarr. These are good attacking teams.
But it's Leicester, right?
The Leicester is
game
away.
is
The away games are
Yeah.
Tottenham, Villa, and Leicester. The home games are Brighton, Bournemouth, and Palace.
It still feels good enough for a Daesh defense, man. Russ mentioned it, right? Like, they would be top 5 in terms of low XG per shot conceded, irrespective. Like, the only thing I'm worried about is Michael Keane. If he's not playing, I don't mind investment in that Everton
It's a
defense.
midfield that does
Genuinely.
concern me also a little bit. And I
Yeah,
just think Everton is a sort of club that they bond. When they really, the going gets tough is when they get going. At the start of the season, I don't trust them as much. Again, there's nothing I can quantify it. This is just a gut feeling.
We're here to give our opinions. It's all right if the stats don't say that. I think it's fine. What do you think about Dan Burn? I'm not convinced, They're also in the market for another centre back, Thor. I love that name. So it's THAW, I think. And they got Lloyd Kelly in there. I'm not even like, yes, last year we spoke multiple times about how much Eddie Howe loves Burn and he's the leader in the pack, etc. as well. But he's getting a little older. I don't know if he's nailed on wing back. Don't know if he's nailed on at centre back. Like, Pras, am I overreacting?
Not really. I mean, if I have Burn and he's rotating with Konza, I'm pretty much only playing Burn for the first 2 weeks, and then it's Konza who I play. So no, I'm not that high on him. I think the only interesting punt from Newcastle might be Livramento if Trippier happens to leave, but that doesn't look like happening, even though we've got him at a check-in counter at the airport. It's okay. I don't think see, none of the 4.5s are home runs. We've just talked about that. So it really is. I mean, I see in the chat that people are saying I'm not buying into the rotation, and I mean, don't have to. It's just probabilities, right? I mean, if you buy good fixtures, we talk about every game week preview. We talk about clean sheet odds. You're basically trying to say that over my 5 weeks before my wildcard, can I add up these clean sheet odds and basically make it into 2.5%, 250% clean sheet, or getting 2 or 3 clean sheets over that period? That's what you're trying to maximize. And the good fixtures will allow you to do that. So I don't think Newcastle is a must. I think Southampton home is that really good fixture. But, like in my setup, I was playing Burn over Guardiola. But if Guardiola is looking so attacking, then I don't need Burn. I'll just play Guardiola away to Chelsea. So you don't need them then.
Yeah. One rotation that Baker shouted out on his pod was great in my opinion. He shouted out Mikalenko and Anton Robinson, where you're getting Brighton home, Leicester home, Bournemouth home, West Ham home, Newcastle home. Like that's a decent fixture. Both are sort of wing backs as well. And Robinson offers attacking threat. It's just we don't know what to expect from Fulham without Paulinho at the moment. And I think there might be some regression anyway to some already poor underlying data. So I feel like Konsa is the one, or Matson is the one. Murillo is somebody I'm convinced about, and Anderson. I think these three names are the ones I'm convinced about in the 4.5 million bracket.
I'd agree with you there.
Yeah. Van de Ven is also interesting if you find somebody in Game Week 3 and 4.
Yeah, Brentford at home, you don't mind playing him. Everton at home, but again, Spurs, another defense I want to really trust in. Unless you got to get somebody with the attacking threat. And I think Romero is what, 5 now or 5.5?
5.5, irrespective, not a pick.
5.
Romero's, yeah. Anybody else? Rico could have been a pick, but he's not starting for Brentford.
You get
Let's
Benny.
just go through the teams. Fulham, we've
Benny.
spoken about Villa, Palace, Southampton, Forest, United. Again, bad fixtures at the start of the season from a clean sheet point of view, in my opinion.
Similar for Bournemouth.
Yeah. I think we're looking at 3 or 4 players like Konsa, Anderson,
Murillo,
Leaf Davis, and Leaf Davis. Mikalenko. I think these are the 5.
And a Fulham guy.
I think you can take a punt on Robinson as well. He was one of their best players. I think Sessegnon is going to be a backup to him to start with at least.
I agree. Yeah, that's why the Matson pitch, man. That's why the Matson pitch. I feel like there's potential there. That one has legs. You're getting like 2 ultra attacking sort of upper tier defense people. So that's the thinking there. And the 4.0s of interest are Barco. Barco looks like a must, I think, in every draft. He's too obvious to give up on right now. If it doesn't work, you wildcard him out, but I think you need to include him in your draft. Howard Bellis is nailed on from Southampton for a centre back. We've got Ben Johnson and Greaves as 4.0 Ipswich options. We've got good fixtures 3, 4, and 5. And I think that's it.
Leicester have Wout-Weiss, David Luiz
Jr. They have Wout-Weiss. So yeah, man.
Zoff, go to that rotation slide just to basically make that point, and also wanted to shout out Nick basically. So there's an X account called Analyst Nick NIK11. So he's done some good stuff this preseason in terms of probability. So this is something I was talking about, where basically he's done clean sheet odds based, adding up the fixtures. So of course he's gone up to game week 19. You don't need to do that. You'll wildcard before that, but it gives you some idea of a Brentford or a Crystal Palace rotation, or a Barco and a Nottingham Forest, which LR talked about. Even a Chelsea one, if you wanted to look at keepers, although Chelsea has no cheap defenders, if I remember correctly. Crystal Palace, Brighton have a good defensive matchup. So just some ideas here for people to take away. But I just thought it was because it's not only just talking about the rotation, it's actually giving the percentages in terms of who are the best in that window, whichever you're targeting for your wildcard.
Good shout, yeah, because that's what my main problem with this graph was, because it was such a long horizon of 19, but I guess you could obviously do the addition manually for some of these.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it manually for all these teams, and you'll figure out which is the best for your particular wildcard window.
Fantastic. Let's wrap up, boys.
Yes, good pod, man. I thought we would go longer than this, so quite happy with how things went. Do you want to go through some of the data, or is off? It's done. So lights off.
No, I think is there anything left to cover? We've covered the premium defenders.
Just some of the attacking tables that we've pulled them out. Shout out to Fantasy Football Scout. Just quickly, Pras, you also need to leave, I think.
No, I don't need to leave. I'm just done with defenders. For me, it's now Trent plus Guardiola and then Inshallah. Basically, that's where we are. The summary of our pod, and maybe Barco, and then just pick 2 others depending on.
Keep an eye on Martson.
Munoz, Pras. Munoz is the third one.
And
Yeah, Munoz, get
Yeah, could be
Munoz.
Munoz.
I
Could be
think
Munoz.
Join us.
Yeah.
sorted.
Plus, I couldn't be more convinced when I tell you join us. Like I'm feeling it fully.
Crystal Palace rotate well with Brighton. Yeah, Munoz plus
Perma play,
would
You
bro.
work.
don't need to
Perma
rotate.
play.
You play him to Chelsea away as well.
Yeah,
Perma
yeah,
play.
Play him
All right,
everywhere.
Zoff, returns second half is fine. Move to the next one. I just want to cite some
Yes.
numbers very quickly. Second half penalty area touches we spoke about. Guardiola, Robertson, etc. done.
It's done. Second half season XGI.
Yeah, the first three names. Pras is going to be very happy. Second half season XGI. Robbo, Trent, and Guardiola. Just wanted to highlight that as well.
My three defenders.
Full season XG. Gabriel is right up there. This is why Romero is overpriced. But Ait Nouri, man, when Wolves have good fixtures, Ait Nouri needs to be on our
almost
radar.
a forward role though at the end of last season
Yeah.
with Cunha out. So a lot of these numbers are from that time. Pinch of salt.
Correct.
Yeah, and they've
correct.
shifted to 4 at the back in preseason, from what I hear.
Yeah. Wouldn't read into anything.
Burns
into
got good
numbers.
XG data. Is Dunk a pick at 4.5 million?
Yeah, but Barco ruins that, right? I mean, if you're getting set pieces for 0.5 less and you're not playing them
Yeah.
every week, then Barco.
If Herzler does well defensively,
That's
then
what I
Dunk
want
could
to see
become a
because he is very
Yeah.
radical in terms of his tactics, something we've never seen in the Premier League.
yeah, man. And they ruined Shah at 5 million. He could be somebody we'd consider at 5.5
5.5
million just to know.
just too much.
Next table. I just wanted to go through this.
Yes.
XGI full season, Porro, Trent, Trippier. So, we're just comfortably brushing off the highest XGI totaler who's got 11 returns, I think, 8 assists, 3 goals. We're just saying, nah, it's okay. You can go without Porro. But we might be naive.
corners.
Yeah, but the data is there, man. The data is just
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Cash, that's the Martin position that I was sort of
Yeah.
alluding to. Nobody else I want to point out. You guys?
Do not buy Matthew Cash to Baker.
Yeah.
Matty
Now-
Cash
now
served
it's
you well. Matty Cash served you well last season, I remember.
Not really. He was just
No?
rotting on my bench or not. No, he was pretty much my albatross.
Okay. Okay.
Next
Uh,
table. Go on, Pras.
No, I was just actually giving a shout out for likes and basically asking you guys to talk about what's coming up. But let's finish the tables.
All right, man. So Trip, Trent, Robbo, Porro, top 5 for chances created. Ben White isn't far away. So, we are perceiving that White's not that attacking. His chance creation threat is up there. Dalot, we said, think about later. Robinson is up there. The 4.5 million defender that sort of features here in chance creation well. So he does have that attacking threat amongst the 4.5
He was there
million
up there for
defenders.
penalty box touches as well.
Exactly. So he's very, very attacking.
Good for
It's not
Bones.
just Palinia that they've lost though. It's even Tossin. Like, in terms of teams going through big changes, it's even that. Big chances. I just wanted to shout out Guardiola. In the second half of the season, he's made the tables. Ait Nouri,
This is
Romero,
full season, big chances.
full season, yeah, and he made his way already. So yeah, Guardiola. We saw a short map, man.
And that's about it. I think after that we have individual.
That's about it. That's about it. Yeah, Pras, you can do this off. Shout out.
No,
man.
very, very data heavy. So people who are listening, do check it out on YouTube, not just because of the data, because of the attire. And I just wanted to ask. There's about 400 people watching and not enough likes. So if you can support us, that would be great. And do you guys want to tell people we're on what in 2 weeks, 8 pods? So
Ninth.
9th. So what's coming up in the next week or so?
Oh, Zoff, why don't you tell them?
So we are doing a Q&A for our members and patrons on Thursday. We'll also be looking to line up some interviews. I think we'll be getting Liverpool's Josh on next week. I'll be looking to get someone from Chelsea on as well. Hopefully some other managers who from YouTube should be joining us. We're just trying to firm up timings and generally a lot more. We'll be looking at midfield, attacks, stats dives, lots more to come.
Yeah, I've got a small 15-minute video lined up, which is analyzing big hitters, which is in concurrence with what people are debating right now, big hitters. I'm just analyzing their performance against opposition of different table. I use that table at the season review pod. I think I'll just have a deeper look into that table. And on Tuesday, we're probably looking to get Tom Freeman on here as well for a podcast. And he will tell us about Aston Villa assets who have a decent run at the start of the season as well. So we've just got lots more. There's going to be content every second or third day. So you make sure you click on the bell icon as well as the subscribe and like button. And as always, we appreciate all the love that you should. The comments in the last 7-8 videos have been phenomenal in general as well. I was just looking at the comments on your team selection video as well, Pras. People love you, man.
I saw yours as well. I mean,
Mm.
it's we really appreciate the love, man. I mean, it's we're so thankful, like I said at the beginning of the pod. So appreciate it. Hopefully, you see we're working hard this preseason, and it'll continue even beyond. I think even the last week we're planning 2 monster pods with the final draft video for each of us. So lots to come.
And
Stay
the
tuned.
attack video. So the one decision we've taken is this is the defense pod, but we felt like even this was supposed to be last Friday, but we took a decision to do it today because we were like, let's let one more round of friendlies happen because it just feels like there's not enough information. What we're doing with the attack pod, which is the attack portion of this deep dive sort of focus pod, is we're doing it on the Monday after the community shield. The point of that is we will have all the information from the last set of preseason friendlies as well, because if we felt like if we do it earlier than that, the data just won't be important enough. So make sure you clear out the schedule on that Monday evening, spend a couple of hours with us because we'll be talking in detail about attack.
Thank you, everyone. I've got the like and subscribe animation over there. Hit that button. Keep your notifications on so you keep getting all the latest content, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
See you.
Yes.